I kind of roll in nature. I'm a hunter and a trapper, and I live off the land.
Tom Oar is not your everyday television star. Unlike most famous people, Tom became well-known not because he chased fame, but because he lived a life that was completely different from modern society. While others were caught in the rush of city life, Tom chose peace, isolation, and nature. For years, he lived deep in the Montana wilderness, surrounded by mountains, rivers, and wildlife. His story became the heart of the hit History Channel show Mountain Man, where viewers watched him survive the harshest winters and live almost entirely off the land. But even before the cameras came, Tom's life was already a story of courage, hard work, and quiet wisdom. Today, fans still wonder where he is and what he's doing, but to understand the man he is now, we must first understand where he came from. Tom Oar was born in 1943 in Rockford, Illinois, and from a young age, he showed a deep love for nature. His father, Chico, worked in the Wild West shows that were popular in the mid-1900s, and young Tom grew up watching his father ride horses and perform. Those early memories shaped him. He didn't want a life in an office or a factory. He wanted freedom, open skies, and the thrill of hard work outdoors. His childhood was filled with fishing, hunting, and learning how to use his hands. Life wasn't easy, but those challenges built his strength and independence. Tom's natural curiosity led him to learn the old ways of doing things, tanning hides, making clothes from animal skins, and surviving in the wild. These skills, once common among mountain men in the 1800s, became his passion, and later, his life's identity. As Tom grew older, his love for adventure led him to the rodeo circuit. He became a skilled bronc rider, a sport that demanded courage, balance, and strength. For over 2 decades, Tom rode bucking horses across the country, earning respect for his talent and toughness. The rodeo life was exciting, but it was also dangerous. Injuries were common, and the constant travel kept him away from the peace he loved in nature. Still, the rodeo taught him important lessons about patience, endurance, and facing fear head-on. But after years of competition, Tom began to feel the toll on his body. He realized he couldn't live that way forever. What he wanted now was a quieter life, one that brought him closer to nature again. That dream would take him far from the noise of the rodeo arenas and deep into the wilderness of Montana. In the 1970s, Tom and his wife Nancy made a life-changing decision. They packed up their belongings and moved to a remote area near the Yaak River in northwestern Montana. The winters there were brutal. Temperatures could drop below -40 degrees Fahrenheit, and snow could reach several feet high. But Tom didn't see hardship. He saw peace. He built a small cabin with his own hands, chopped wood for heat, hunted for food, and trapped animals to make a living. Life in the wild was far from easy, but it was exactly what he wanted, a life of independence. He and Nancy worked side by side, tanning hides and creating handmade clothing and moccasins that they sold to support themselves. For decades, they lived without modern comforts like electricity or running water, and they didn't seem to miss it. Their days were ruled by the sun, the weather, and the rhythm of the land. What made Tom Oar truly remarkable was not just his lifestyle but his mindset. He didn't see nature as something to conquer. He saw it as a teacher and a companion. Every day, he adapted to its lessons, whether it was learning how to set traps, tan hides, or read animal tracks. Tom's knowledge came from years of quiet observation. He often said that living in the wild teaches you humility because nature doesn't care about fame, money, or pride. You either respect it or you don't survive. Over time, his skills became legendary. People from nearby towns would visit to see how he lived, and many were amazed at how calm and content he was despite the challenges. Tom represented something rare in today's world, a man who was truly free, self-reliant, and at peace with himself. Tom Oar's life might have remained unknown to most of the world if it hadn't been for the History Channel. When Mountain Men first aired in 2012, viewers were instantly drawn to Tom's quiet strength and old-fashioned way of living. The show followed his daily routines, trapping, tanning hides, chopping firewood, and preparing for Montana's brutal winters. His patience, kindness, and deep respect for nature quickly made him a fan favorite. Unlike many TV personalities, Tom wasn't acting for the camera. What audiences saw was real, an honest man living a simple life. Through Mountain Men, millions of people got to experience a world that most had only read about in history books. Tom reminded viewers that happiness isn't found in luxury or technology, But in hard work, nature, and love, behind Tom's rugged lifestyle was a deep love for his family. His wife Nancy was his greatest supporter, sharing every hardship and joy by his side. They were a true team, building, crafting, and surviving together in one of the most challenging places in America. Tom often said he couldn't have done it without her. Together, they raised children who inherited their parents' respect for nature and simple living. But life in the wild also brought moments of deep sadness. Tom lost his brother, Jack, and later, his beloved dog Ellie, both of whom meant the world to him. Those losses reminded him that even in the wilderness, no one can escape pain. Still, Tom carried on, finding strength in the memories of those he loved. His resilience in the face of loss made fans admire him even more, even after mountain men made him a household name. Tom Oar never let fame change who he was. While others might have moved to the city or embraced luxury, Tom continued living quietly in Montana. He didn't care about red carpets or interviews. He cared about the peace of the wild and the satisfaction of honest work. Viewers respected him for that. His humility stood out in a world full of attention-seeking celebrities. Tom once said that happiness doesn't come from how much you own, but from how little you need. That simple wisdom touched millions of fans who watched mountain men not just for survival tips, but for life lessons. Even as his fame grew, Tom remained the same. A humble man who loved the earth and believed in living close to it. As the years passed, life in the mountains became harder for Tom. Age doesn't spare even the strongest of men. The heavy work of chopping wood, setting traps, and surviving freezing winters began to take a toll on his body. Fans noticed that he appeared less often in newer seasons of Mountain Men, and rumors began to spread. Was Tom Oar retiring? Was he leaving the wilderness for good? In later interviews, Tom admitted that the harsh Montana winters had become too difficult for him and Nancy to handle. They decided to move to a quieter, warmer place in Florida, where they could still live simply but without the life-threatening cold. It was a difficult decision for a man who had spent half his life surrounded by mountains, but he knew it was time. Even legends must eventually rest today. Tom Oar lives a quieter life away from the cameras, but he still holds on to his old habits and simple ways. Even in Florida, he continues to work with his hands, crafting leather and keeping the traditions alive that made him famous. He occasionally makes appearances at events or in interviews, always humble and soft-spoken. His time on Mountain Men and his real-life adventures have inspired millions of people to reconnect with nature and appreciate a simpler life. He may have stepped away from the wilderness, but his spirit remains there forever. Tom Oar's story is more than just one man's journey. It's a lesson for everyone. In a world where people rush through life chasing success and comfort, Tom showed that true happiness comes from simplicity, self-reliance, and connection to the earth. He proved that living close to nature isn't about escaping society, but about finding balance and peace within it. His courage to live differently has inspired countless viewers to slow down, work with their hands, and appreciate the little things. Even though his days in Montana may be behind him, his legacy continues through Mountain Men and through the lives he touched. Tom Oar will always be remembered as one of the last true mountain men, a man who lived by his own rules, respected the land, and found joy in every sunrise over the wilderness he called home. Tom Oar's journey reminds us that life doesn't need to be complicated to be meaningful. From his childhood in Illinois to his rodeo days, from his cabin in Montana to his peaceful retirement, Tom lived every chapter with courage and heart. He faced challenges that most people today couldn't imagine, yet he did so with grace and gratitude. His story teaches us that freedom isn't about money or fame. It's about choosing a life that feels true to who you are. Even now, as he enjoys his later years away from the spotlight, Tom Oar continues to inspire anyone who believes in hard work, nature, and simplicity. His name will always stand for honesty, endurance, and the timeless spirit of the mountains. What truly made Tom Oar different was not just the way he lived, but the way he thought about life. He often said that comfort can make people forget what it means to be alive. In his view, when life becomes too easy, we lose appreciation for simple things like warmth, food, and peace. Living in the wild gave him a kind of gratitude that few people understand. Every log of firewood meant survival. Every meal cooked or prepared by hand meant independence. He saw beauty in hard work because it made him feel connected to the earth. For Tom, living off the land wasn't about rejecting the modern world. It was about remembering that humans are part of nature, not above it. This philosophy shaped his every decision, from building his cabin to appearing on television. It reminded people everywhere that happiness can come from less, not more. When the producers of Mountain Men first approached Tom, he wasn't sure what to think. He had never dreamed of being on television. In fact, he didn't even watch much TV. But the idea of showing how real people could still live off the land interested him. He agreed, thinking it might inspire others to appreciate nature. The show began as a small project, yet it quickly gained popularity. Viewers across the world were fascinated by his lifestyle. They watched in awe as Tom faced blizzards, repaired his cabin, and set traps in deep snow. But behind the scenes, the fame was never easy for him. He once said that the camera crews had to snowshoe several miles just to reach his home. Sometimes, they couldn't film for days because of storms. Yet, Tom remained patient and kind to everyone, treating the crew like family. Even as his face became familiar to millions, his daily life stayed the same. Quiet, honest, and full of hard work. One of the most touching things about Tom Oar's story is how deeply it connected with people from every walk of life. Some viewers were farmers who saw a bit of themselves in his hard-working spirit. Others were city dwellers who dreamed of escaping the rush and finding peace like Tom did. Letters began arriving from fans thanking him for reminding them what truly matters. Parents said they watched Mountain Men with their children to teach them about self-reliance and respect for nature. Veterans wrote to say his calm strength helped them cope with stress after returning home. Many people even traveled to Montana hoping to meet him in person, and Tom welcomed them with warmth and humility. He never saw himself as a celebrity, only as someone living the life he loved. His story proved that authenticity still has power in a world full of pretense. To Tom, simplicity wasn't about doing less. It was about doing what matters. He often said that living in the wild stripped away distractions and helped him focus on the essentials: food, warmth, safety, and love. His home was small, but everything inside had a purpose. Each tool had a story. The knives he used, the traps he built, and the clothes he and Nancy sewed were all made by hand. He believed that when you make something yourself, you put a part of your soul into it. In a way, his cabin was a living museum of skill and patience. People who visited were amazed at how little waste he produced. Nothing was thrown away. Every scrap of leather or piece of wood was reused. That kind of lifestyle is rare today, yet it represents a wisdom that modern life often overlooks, the understanding that the earth gives enough if you take only what you need. Life in the Montana wilderness was not always peaceful. Tom faced danger from wild animals, freezing weather, and isolation. But those challenges became his teachers. He learned to read signs in the snow, to predict weather changes from the color of the sky, and to trust his instincts when hunting or trapping. There were times when he went days without seeing another person. In those moments, he said, you either find peace within yourself or lose it completely. Solitude taught him self-awareness and patience. He once explained that when you're alone in the wild, you start to understand how small you are in the grand picture of nature. That humility made him a calmer, more grounded man. Viewers could feel that calm through the screen. It's what made watching him so peaceful. He reminded everyone that silence isn't emptiness. It's space for reflection. Behind Tom's strength was an equally strong woman, his wife, Nancy. Their marriage was more than a partnership. It was a friendship built on trust, teamwork, and love. Living together in such a harsh environment demanded cooperation every single day. While Tom hunted and trapped, Nancy prepared hides, sewed clothes, and managed their home. They depended on each other completely. When asked the secret to their long marriage, Tom said, "We just take care of each other." They rarely argued, because both understood that survival left no room for pride. Every winter storm they survived together became another shared victory. Even now, after decades together, they remain side by side. Their relationship shows that love doesn't need luxury to last. It needs respect, kindness, and shared purpose. Many fans have said that Tom and Nancy's devotion is one of the most beautiful parts of Mountain Men. Although the show often highlighted the beauty of Tom's lifestyle, it couldn't always show the pain behind it. The cold winters were brutal on his joints, and the long hours of physical labor became harder as he aged. Isolation also meant that help was far away in case of injury or illness. Sometimes, food supplies ran low, and he had to rely on what little he could catch or gather. Yet, Tom rarely complained. He accepted hardship as part of life.